Right now on Lone Star Politics, a barn burner of a rematch in Tarrant County for the Texas House.
We are not moving the ball forward.
Statewide forces collide in a North Texas district.
Well, I've got a record, he's got rhetoric.
And a pay raise proposal for Dallas City Council. We talked to a key supporter and a former president on trial.
I'm sitting here for days now, from morning till night.
We explore the impacts on Texas.
This is Lone Star Politics from NBC5 and the Dallas Morning News.
Arguably the most popular political figure in the state of Texas goes on trial tomorrow. Good Sunday morning. I'm Phil Prazan from NBC5.
And I'm Gromer Jeffers, political writer with the Dallas Morning News.
We're now 24 hours from opening arguments in the first ever criminal trial of a former American president, accused of sending hush money years ago. The case unfolds in New York. And despite his legal troubles, we have new numbers showing he's still favored in Texas come November.
That's according to a new survey that also found Republican Senator Ted Cruz could be facing his most serious challenge yet.
Jason Villalba joins us. He is the CEO of the Texas Hispanic Policy Foundation. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here, Phil.
So there's so much going on a national level. How much of that do you think is going to trickle down into the race between Donald Trump and Joe Biden here in Texas?
Well, Trump remains very strong. His support is across the board through all the different segments. He's up by 12 points in our latest poll, which is 6 points greater than it was just 4 years ago when he faced Biden the very first time. So there's still some time, but he's showing a striking resilience in the face of some of these controversies.
And that's interesting because, so it was, I think in 2016, Donald Trump won Texas by 9 points. And then in 2020, it was by 6 points. You're saying now it could be up back past 12. So some of his legal troubles, do you think that could be making him more popular in Texas?
I don't know if it's a function of Trump as much as it's a function of Biden, right? Mm-hmm. So we saw the 9, we saw the 6. We should see a 3, but it's not. It's gone back up. Now in April, it's still a snapshot. We might see some more developments as this trial goes on tomorrow. But what we are seeing is that he has maintained his strength in the face of Biden, and Biden has lost some of his popularity among Texans. You know, he didn't have a record last time. Now he's got a 4-year record, and so I think that's what's driving some of this delta.
Well, so where does the former president stand with Latino voters? There's a lot of talk that he's cutting into Biden's base with black voters and Latino voters. For Latino voters, what did your survey find? I
think this is the most striking component of this part of the poll, and that is that if you look at Latino voters in Texas, Trump is ahead by 4 points against Biden. Now, that's really unprecedented. We don't normally see Latinos going statewide for a Republican candidate. In this instance, we're seeing it already. Again, it may change, but we haven't seen the numbers like we are seeing them now since George W. Bush was president. Yeah. He got a 47 from Hispanics back in his day, and it looks like about a 47 right now from Trump. So Trump's done very well with Latinos.
What are you seeing in the Senate race? Ted Cruz against Colin Allred. What do the numbers tell you there?
I think that's where we are very curious about what is happening in that race. So unlike this race, unlike the presidential race where there's a 12-point delta, in the Senate race, we're only seeing about 4 points, or 5 points separating the two candidates, right? So Cruz is up by 5, but only 5. Now, this early in the race, again, things can change.
A lot of time, a lot of money coming.
A lot of time could happen, but the fact that Allred has this kind of strength going into the election cycle of the fall, and then, of course, as we go up into the race, the fact that he's only 5 points back suggests that he has some real strength in the base and that Cruz is underperforming in his base.
And you expect both parties to be competing for Latino voters this time, unlike in the past where I kind of take it for granted.
I do think now in this race we saw the flip, right? So in this race, the Latinos are supporting Allred by about 5 points.
So it's a Trump phenomenon.
Yeah, well, Trump is resoundingly popular with Latinos all over Texas, but primarily in the Rio Grande Valley.
Why do you think that is?
There are 2 reasons that our poll showed. Number one, he appeals very strongly to male Latinos, right? The machismo, the powerful leader is something that's very appealing to male Hispanics. That's number one. And number two, he's been very strong on the issues around the border. And unlike border security issues in other parts of the country, Latinos are very much in favor of a strong border security in Texas, and he's the one that most likely helps them. And remember, they live down there, right? So their communities are being impacted by illegal immigration in a meaningful way, and so they want somebody with a strong hand to secure that border, and I think that's another reason why he's so strong in that region.
Jason Villalba, thanks for talking with us this morning.
Very, very interesting.
Thank you so much.
A House race rematch leads to a runoff. Still ahead, we sit down with both the candidates in Tarrant County.
I think that this is just a shameful indication of a lack of true focused priorities.
A pay raise on the table at Dallas City Hall. How likely is this? Coming up, you're watching Lone Star Politics.
Early voting starts tomorrow for the Saturday, May 4th election. New appraisal board members, bond elections, mayor and city council races across Texas. 3 weeks later, Texans will head back to the polls to finish up races for the March primary.
Runoff elections happen on Tuesday, May 28th, and this is because no candidate reached more than 50% last time. And that's what brings us to House District 91, stretching across Watauga, North Richland Hills, and parts of Fort Worth. Nurse and Republican State Representative Stephanie Click has held the seat since 2012. She's challenged once again by David Lowe, a stay-at-home dad and veteran. It was close last time and in a runoff this time. She's the chair of the Public Health Committee and has outraised her opponent. More than $800,000 raised since last July, including big checks from Speaker Dade Phelan and the business group Protecting House Incumbents, Texans for Lawsuit Reform. She's endorsed by Governor Abbott, former Governor Rick Perry, and major advocacy groups like the NRA, Texas Right to Life, and several police organizations. What do you think this race is about?
Someone who's distorted my record. He's got support from West Texas, groups that met with Nazi sympathizers. I represent my district. I grew up here, lifelong resident. He represents West Texas.
What do you think is the biggest difference between you and David Lowe?
I grew up in this district, moved here when I was 4 years old, went to school here, professionally practiced as a nurse in the community. Lifelong resident. I have been very involved politically, got involved in college, was a precinct chair, county chair, and helped build the Republican Party to the powerhouse it is here in Tarrant County.
This election cycle, there's probably been more focus on how the Texas House is run. Speaker Dade Phelan has gotten a lot of flack and criticism. He's in a runoff as well. What do you think of Speaker Phelan? Is he somebody that you still support as Speaker?
You know, we've gotten record accomplishments. We've passed constitutional carry. We've passed some of the strongest pro-life legislation in the country. We have done property tax reform, some of the strongest border security bills in the country. You know, if you're going to have criticism, you've also got to give credit for leading us to that.
And he's done that job, you think?
He has.
The idea of Democratic chairs, you are a chair, not a Democrat, but do you support that idea of allowing the minority party at least some type of power in the coalition?
There are Democrats that are chairs of committees that are non-substantive committees that are not a problem. Yeah. Some of my biggest problems in getting bills heard and out of committee have been with Republican chairs, not Democrat chairs.
Attorney General Ken Paxton, you voted to impeach him. With all we know now, and the saga changes often, but with what we know now, how do you feel about that vote?
Well, I voted to send the bill or the matter to the Senate for a trial, along with 2/3 of the Republican majority in the House. I don't believe anybody is above the law, and I believe that it merited going to the Senate for a trial. The first vote that the Senate took was whether or not to proceed to trial, whether there was sufficient evidence to go to trial. And they affirmed that decision and went to trial.
So I'm hearing you feel good about it. The process worked how the process should be working.
Yeah, the process could be reformed some, but I believe that it was important because no one is above the law.
I've read some stuff online about David Lowe criticizing you for about allowing grant money for go to these hospitals who then contract or do some type of transition work. What's going on there?
Well, again, another distortion and lie from my opponent. That bill had absolutely nothing to do with transgender care. What it had to do with was providing crisis mental health services in pediatric emergency rooms that do not provide behavioral health. I had a constituent with a child, 17 years old, newly diagnosed with schizophrenia, that tried to kill the family. And when they showed up at the emergency room, they didn't provide behavioral health there. They had to transfer the child to another facility. There weren't any beds available.
The challenger, David Lowe, has raised almost $150,000 since last July. Much of that comes from the group Texans for a Conservative Majority, which rebranded after the president of the old organization met with a neo-Nazi and stepped down. He has the support of Attorney General Ken Paxton, Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller, and more grassroots groups like Texas Gun Rights and Abolish Abortion Texas.
Well, the truth is, Texas Republicans have had the majority for over 2 decades. CPAC has ranked us the 26th most conservative state. We are not moving the ball forward. You know, it took 8 legislative sessions to partially ban vaccine mandates. It took over 5 sessions to ban sex change operations for children, and we are putting corporations ahead of constituents.
Do you have a problem with the product?
Yeah, well, I have a problem with us dragging our feet. Look, we have the majority, we should act like it. You know, we are surrendering our power to the other party, which is something that differentiates me from my opponent. She wants to appoint Democrat chairs to head committees in the Texas legislature controlled by the Republicans. I think that the voters, since they vote for more Republicans should have the control of all the committees.
Is there any law that you would like to see passed that did not pass?
Yes, absolutely. So while my opponent finally, after much delay, passed a bill that would outlaw some gender transitions for children, she continues to kill the bills that would have labeled it as child abuse, and that's exactly what it is. And so that has to pass next legislative session.
Online, I see abortion is an important issue for you.
Yeah.
Anything that is there any daylight between you and her on that issue?
So I'm actually being attacked for my position on abortion, and what I support is the Republican Party platform on abortion. The same laws that protect you and myself should protect an unborn child. A child is protected differently if they are 1 day old versus being in a mother's womb.
So what's that mean? So does that mean you would support, I guess, a murder charge? I guess because if somebody killed me, it would be murder, right?
Well, like I said, you know, number one, for example, the death penalty for a mother that has an abortion is the dumbest, most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. But again, I support the same laws that protect you and protect me, protect an unborn child. Remember, the Republican Party of Texas principle number 2, from conception till natural death.
I understand that you purchased some porn domain names in the past. What's the story there?
Number one, that is an absolute distraction from her miserable voting record. And of course she would want to bring that up because she wants to distract the voters from the real issues. Right, look, I own domain names. I own over 200 of them, and I think they all expired. The last one I think was 2011. Mm-hmm. I was trying to make a quick buck in the military. I didn't sell or run any porn sites, and it's disgusting that she would try and transition from policy issues to personal attacks. You know, just remember, she was called out by the Dallas Morning News 2 years ago for running the most deceptive campaign ad of the year. You know, even Mark Davis, the conservative radio show host, also called her out for deception. She will do anything and everything to avoid talking about her miserable record.
There's no Democrat in the race in November, so whoever wins this wins the seat. And Gromer, Stephanie Click, she told me she was a precinct chair in Tarrant County in the 1980s. She has been around this Republican Party in Tarrant County for years. And I guess now the question is, has the party gone in a different direction?
Well, she has, and she mentioned she helped build it to the powerhouse, quote, powerhouse it is today. She's been through a similar fight before, hard right insurgents trying to take her on. And she's weathered the storm. It's interesting this time, she has Abbott supporting her, Texas Governor Greg Abbott. He has, in many cases in this cycle, saved or helped save incumbents from that anti-incumbency mood you see in some of the races. Paxton, of course, on the other side. We'll see if he's able to help her win re-election. I want to see the extended interviews as well, because this seems like a real bitter race.
It is. It is going to be tough. And so Abbott was with Click on Friday,
yes.
And then I understand Ken Paxton has an event for David Lowe also this weekend.
Yeah, this is one of the races to watch.
Still ahead, the proposal to nearly double the annual salary of some Dallas city leaders. Who's behind the proposal and who would have the final say? That and more ahead on Lone Star Politics. Does Dallas City Council and the mayor need a pay raise? The group tasked with overhauling city government thinks so. From $60,000 to $125,000 for city council members, and from $80,000 to $145,000 for the mayor, roughly double the pay. In May, they'll vote on it and then send it to the voters in November for final approval. We are here with a Charter Review Commissioner, Stuart Campbell, who supports the pay raise. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Just tell us a little bit about why the pay raise.
So there's a few reasons. One is pure economics, right? If you look at what's happened to the dollar from 2014 to 2024, where we are now, the purchase value of that dollar has gone from $1 down to 76 cents. Combining that with the increased cost of living in North Texas, specifically Dallas, we've seen rents go from $1,000 on average to $1,500, for 2 bedrooms from $1,500 to $2,400. And just the general cost of living has significantly increased. And really, you get what you pay for at City Council. And so I think an important question to ask is, as residents of the city of Dallas, do we want our city council folks to treat their job as a part-time gig, or as a retirement gig, or as a side hustle, or as a paid hobby? To me, the answer is no. To me, a city council full-time. Yes, a city council person should be devoted full-time for their constituency out in the community every single day, treating it like a full-time job.
So these kind of fights always get pretty heated.
Yeah.
I reached out to the incoming Dallas Republican County Chair, Alan West. He opposed the measure. Here's what he told us.
Well, you think about the young men and women that we asked to raise their right hand to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, to go into harm's way and keep us safe. They're the best and they're the brightest that this country can offer. And they're not getting paid anywhere near these wages that these very comfortable city officials are asking for.
So he argues, if there's extra money, why not go towards, police, first responders instead of the city council and the mayor?
I'm all for giving a general raise for city attorneys, regardless of the department they're in. But let's focus on city council, because that's what we're talking about here today. And the reality is, adjusted for inflation, it goes down to $46,000 a year. And again, we want a full-time position to be occupied by someone who views it as a full-time position. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your point.
And so, really, my goal here is to have city council look like the city of Dallas. The reality is, if you want to run for city and maintain a city office, you usually have to be independently wealthy. To me, there shouldn't be a bar on maintaining office just because you're poor. City council shouldn't just serve the interests of rich folks. It should look out and be represented by the entire population of the city of Dallas, which is mostly middle-class, working-class families.
I know you want it to be a full-time position, but by law, by charter, is it really a full-time position? And if not, why so much pay?
So it's not, to answer your question directly, it is not precluded by law for it to be a full-time position. That's correct. However, as a resident of the city of Dallas, whenever I'm going to the ballot box and putting someone in office and voting for someone in office, I expect them to vote their entire day to the betterment of the city of Dallas. I think every city council person should hold themselves to that standard, that if they're elected to city council, they should represent the city 24 hours a day, every day.
And so if they're being paid like that, should they go to work on city business every day, 9 to 5 or whatever it is that most people do? Should that be expected of them?
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we've seen in the past, couple of years is city council folks and some other elected officials just not showing up to city council. I think that needs to change.
Okay.
Stuart Campbell, thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have. Stay tuned for Meet the Press with Kristen Welker. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you back here next Sunday for more.